Hello and welcome to day 19 of the 40-day global study of Maimonides, preparing for the high holidays. We're going to continue now in chapter 4 with the discussions of things that are impediments to Teshuvah. We talked about serious things in the 2 days ago. Then yesterday we talked about things that close the door to Teshuvah. Now we have a third category. There are 5 things that prevent a person from complete the tshuva, and they are sins between one person and another. And one cannot know whom he has harmed, such that he might repay him for his loss or big forgiveness. These are they, right? Like in the previous sets of impediments, we talked about things that are kind of like internal, like you've got to work on yourself and you've got to like unblock your own way of thinking to be able to do tshuva. But now we're talking about a situation where, let's say you've solved all those problems, you've removed all those blockages, you really want to do tshuva and you're ready to do anything it takes. But now, practically, how do you do it? Again, we said very early on in this book that the one of the key elements of tshuva is you have to make restitution. If you've stolen money, for example, from someone, you can be such a Baal Tshuva that you're clapping al chet all the time, you're such a tremendous tzaddik, a very righteous person, but until you pay that person back, the tshuva is still left hanging. So you're in a real problem there. So here are 5 categories where that could happen. Number 1, one who curses a large number of people without specifying a particular individual, such that he might later beg his forgiveness. The Chafetz Chaim, in his tremendous work on Lashon Hara, on improper speech, talks about the seriousness of maligning an entire community, like saying, "Oh, those 5-towners," or "Oh, those Brooklynites," whatever it is. That's a very serious thing, because if you say something that qualifies for Lashon Hara, for slanderous talk, and then you want to do tshuva, well, what are you going to do? Apologize to every single person in Brooklyn? Are you going to go to everyone in the 5 towns and try to take it back? That's a really hard thing to do. Even a public apology that you put in the newspaper, how do you know it's going to reach everyone? And how do you know there are travelers in town who may have said, well, you know what they're like in the 5 towns, and that person now travels off to Singapore and they don't get the newspaper there. I mean, this is a serious thing. So you have to be very careful with maligning large groups of people. Number 2, one who shares stolen property with a thief, since he does not know the origin of the stolen property to return it, as the thief sold him property taken from many people. Furthermore, he supports the thief and his sinful behavior. What Maimonides is talking about here is essentially being a fence, right? Ruvain, God forbid, goes and steals and brings the money to Shimon. And Shimon says, sure, I'll buy it from you and then I will sell it to other people. And this happens for who knows how long. And then Shimon goes to Shul, he learns Maimonides, he realizes he has to do tshuva. He goes back to Reuven and says, listen, I want to make restitution for contributing to the loss of these people. And Reuven says, well, I don't keep records. You think I have a separate set of books of all the people I stole from? No way. Now Shimon's in trouble. What does he do? Now, there are, by the way, solutions to this. Some of them are discussed in the commentary, like providing a public benefit, digging a well, building a bridge, something like that, or, donating a Sefer Torah to a synagogue, different possibilities. But on the surface, how are you going to make restitution? How are you going to do tshuva if you can't make restitution? Number 3, one who finds lost property and does not announce it, so that the property may be returned to its owner. He may later do tshuva, but he will not know who should receive the lost object, right? According to the laws of lost and found, which are actually deeply spiritual. And ironically, for many young students who are first introduced to Talmud, this happens to be the area where they typically begin their studies, is the laws of lost and found. They are on such a high plane. They are so, glorious in their consideration for the needs of others, that they're deeply motivating. At any rate, one of the basics is that if you find something, lost property, under certain circumstances, not all circumstances, but you have to make a public announcement. Hey, I found this shtreimel. I found this fur Hasidic hat, and I'd like to know to whom it belongs so that I can return it. Come provide the identifying characteristics, like it's round and it's brown and it's made of fur, things like that, and then I will return it to you. So if you fail to do that, and you wait till a very long period of time, and then your announcement no longer has weight because people have moved on, forgotten about all kinds of things, then how are you going to return it to the person who you took it from? Or you didn't actually steal it from them, but you prevented its return. So now how do you do tshuva for that? Number 4, one who consumes extorted property owned by the poor, orphans, and widows. There's a slight problem with the text here. If you look in the Hebrew edition, you'll see that there's one word that it's a little confusing, whether it means shod or shore, but that's too much of a detail for now. At any rate, I'm translating it according to many modern commentators. These are downtrodden people. They are not well known, and they wander from city to city, and there's no one who will say, whose property is this, such that it will be returned. Once again, taking advantage of people's property, and then when you decide you want to give it back, it's too late. You can't do it. Number 5, this one's most terrifying. One who accepts a bribe to pervert justice. He does not know how far the implications of this judgment will reach, nor the extent of its impact, such that he might rectify it. For there was some basis for the judgment. He also supports the person who offered the bribe. So this is like a terrifying thing. First of all, obviously, if you're a judge, this is a serious thing to be considering. But even if you're not a judge, if you're a regular person, and let's say, you are unduly influenced to think poorly of person X, Y, Z, and as a result, you withhold some benefit from, let's say, Ruvain. And as a result of your withholding that benefit, then Ruvain, has a whole series of consequences in his life based on his self-image, based on his self-perception, based on how others perceive him, that, could spill over and cascade for decades. And then when you go back and review your life and you see in the videotape of 2018 that you made this mistake and you want to do Teshuvah, and now it's 2028, oh my gosh, how do you make restitution for all those things that have happened as a result of your bribed judgment? Scary, right? But Yom Kippur is a scary day in many ways. Okay, that's it for day 19. Look forward to discussing day 20 with you tomorrow, which continues with another category, absolutely fascinating category of impediments that really give us the motivation to try and do better this year. Thank you for listening.